Alright, I'm fully expecting this to rub a lot of people the wrong way, so buckle up. I never wanted a sequel to Joker from 2019. A movie I absolutely love, and I'm not a fan of musicals whatsoever. There's maybe 3 musicals that I enjoy. I appreciate it as a genre, but they're just not my thing. The review scores for this were painfully low before I ever even stepped foot into the theater, and almost every single one of my friends who got to see it early didn't like it. I went to see it just for the sake of it. It's a DC movie, I was such a huge fan of the original, it was the next big mainstream release, so why not? But I fully expected to hate it. And yes, I somehow enjoyed myself. I know, pretty crazy, right? So now that I have your attention, hear me out. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and movie lovers of all kinds, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am your host, Brett Murphy, and for today's video, I am going to be discussing why Joker 2, or Joker Folie, Deux, is better than I expected. Before I hop into the actual video itself, I just wanted to let you all know that I have carefully curated playlists for every type of video I do, be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, and so much more. There is a playlist for all, so I encourage you to explore the channel, and I guarantee you'll find something you like. And if by some chance you don't, then feel free to suggest something you might like. And so without further ado, let's hop right into things. Alright, let's get the issues out of the way first, because there are plenty still. Just because I enjoyed the movie doesn't mean I don't have my gripes. It's far from the masterpiece or even relative greatness of any sort. That being said, I'll start by saying I really liked Lady Gaga's performance as Harley, or Lee as they call her here, Quinn. But I didn't find the character to be at all interesting. In fact, this might be my least favorite characterization of her. Her singing is immaculate, obviously, but this version of the character felt paper thin and often bored me. I do still feel Gaga was the right choice for this particular movie, but she lacks any real depth. She's merely a plot device to further reinforce the messages of the movie that surround Arthur. She loves the idea of Joker, but she doesn't love or even care about Arthur. As soon as he reveals his true self, that he wants to get better and start fresh, she abandons him like everyone else. But she herself is nothing more than that, not to mention they didn't get to cause any real sort of chaos or mayhem throughout Gotham like I was hoping for. The only Joker and Harley stuff was all in Arthur's head, his idea of her and what they could be. Though I do applaud the switching that she is now manipulating him. Speaking of the themes, I don't think they conveyed them the way they wanted to, or anywhere near as clearly as they could have been. There is a lot of rehashing going on, retreading many of the same themes and story beats, which I personally didn't mind because there are very much so still those stigmas around mental health and such. But when they do try to present new themes, it often gets muddled by later contradictions. Some of the ideas like sensationalism, idolization, trauma, manipulation, abuse of power, corruption, and conditional love are present, and at times are well explored, but other times not. Arguably the biggest offense this movie makes, though, is not marketing itself as a musical whatsoever, which is why I think the reviews and general reactions have been so negative and very loud. I mean, if you really paid attention to the marketing, you'd likely pick up on that a bit more, but I can confidently say that my girlfriend and I were the only ones in our theater that knew it was a musical. Listening to some of the chatter before, during, and especially after, it seemed like nobody else had any idea that it was a musical. I know this has been a hot topic of discussion lately, with some studios openly admitting that they will not market musicals as musicals for a variety of reasons. But in my opinion, the reason so many musicals flop or get negative reviews is because they aren't marketed as musicals, and then people go see them expecting something else. My last major gripe is that I think many are going to find it a bit too long. Personally speaking, I never felt bored, and that's because I never really knew what was coming next. But the movie clocking in at 2 hours and 20 minutes did feel like a bit much. The first movie is just about 2 hours flat, and that was perfect. This one probably could have been the same, and I don't think much would have changed. Granted, a lot of people seem to be picking up on multiple scenes featured heavily in the trailers that have already been removed from the final movie, so who knows what really went on in the editing room already. Now for the main course. Why did I still like this movie? The main reason is that it is so different. We could have gotten a generic cookie-cutter sequel, another ripoff of other movies, but we didn't. Instead, Philip seemingly took the criticisms of the first, mainly that it was nothing more than a ripoff of various Scorsese movies, and gave us something we've never seen before. People who are hardcore defenders of this movie keep throwing around the words bold, daring, unique, unexpected, brilliant. And while some I would agree with, most I don't. I do think that it was a massive risk, and I think the ending was bold. But I don't think this was some mad genius at work or anything like that. However, I do commend him for essentially making a movie that's just a giant middle finger to all the people who criticize the original's lack of creativity, and especially those who took the wrong messages from that first movie. Too many people saw themselves in Arthur or felt represented by him, but this movie tears all of that down in glorious fashion. Not to mention all while featuring scenes that literally show us how those same people would likely react to the movie itself. Arthur Fleck is not some alpha male dude bro, finally sticking up for himself. He's not sticking it to the man or breaking down the system, he's just a guy. The idea of Joker crumbles before our, and their, very eyes. I loved it. We dive even deeper into his mind throughout the movie, and I appreciated that immensely. In tandem with that, Joaquin Phoenix turns in another superb performance too. Not as good as the first movie, I don't think anyway, but he still wowed me once more. He rarely had to share the screen in the original, and though Gaga didn't have as much screen time as I expected, she still had a fair bit, so we don't get quite as much of Arthur. Nevertheless, I was impressed once more. Really, I'd go as far as saying that there weren't any bad performances here. Everyone gave it their all, and it definitely showed in my eyes. I already sung the praises of the two leads, but Brendan Gleeson as the head guard was excellent. The other guards too were wonderfully scummy and antagonistic, making them just so easy to hate. Steve Coogan had, I think, one scene as Patty Mayers, and he was great too. Arthur's defense attorney, played by Catherine Keener, was also in top form. This version of Harvey Dent was a little generic, but the man was still solid in the role, and Zazie Beetz came back for only one scene, but she took full advantage of it. The last one I wanted to sing the praises for was Lee Gill as Gary Puddles. The scene with him on the stand was probably my favorite scene of the entire movie. His performance was incredible. The way he described his trauma, the way you saw it breaking down the Joker persona, you feel the emotion behind every word, and it left a lasting impression on me. The musical numbers, despite how controversial they are, I also found spectacular. As I've said, I knew it was a musical heading in. Even though I'm not a big fan of musicals, I was intrigued by them going this route rather than a straightforward sequel to a billion-dollar movie. I loved the way the musical portions were presented. They represent Arthur's fantasies and how they have grown. They've become more elaborate, more bizarre, and more fantasy-like. I mean, most, if not all of us, listen to music as we go through life in a variety of ways and for a variety of reasons. Music makes us feel, it helps us, it can be powerful, it can heal, it can help us release. These hallucinations of Arthur's aren't new. The man hallucinated an entire relationship in the first movie. Now, having been subject to medication and abuse in Arkham Asylum for 2 full years, and now believing he's found his true love, he's found a new form of expression through music. I loved the colors, I loved the lighting, I loved the sets, I thought the song choices were excellent, with both Phoenix and Gaga sounding wonderful together and separate. These portions just felt like a breath of fresh air to me. Again, as someone who already knew it was a musical. If you didn't, they probably pissed you off. But for me, it was such a massive, questionable, but undeniably ballsy swing. Can you imagine if they just went and made The Batman Part 2 a musical, or the next Deadpool movie? Something like this has never happened and will likely never happen again. The budget of the first movie was $55 million. The budget for this one was $200 million. And they went and made a musical. Pure, unfiltered, unprecedented insanity. And this one may be a bit more controversial, but contrary to popular belief, I personally feel that this movie also retains a lot of what people enjoyed about the first movie. Arkham is a dark, somber hellhole, as it should be. It's got truly beautiful cinematography, a haunting score from Hildur Guðnadóttir, pronounced that horrendously, diving in and out of Arthur's fractured psyche, the corruption of Gotham, the lack of care and empathy in the mental health care system, the long-term effects of childhood trauma and abuse. There's so much carryover. Some people might think that's lazy, and I'll admit that portions of it do come off as a little lazy. But for the most part, I found it not only reinforced the themes of the original, but expanded on them while at least trying to incorporate new ones to middling results. One of the biggest wins for this movie in my eyes was that it shows the effects of Arthur's actions from the first movie from every possible angle. Those who were irreparably damaged by him. Those who sensationalized him like he's some sort of icon or martyr, whether it's the public, the other inmates, or especially the media. Then you have those who are trying to take advantage of him and his story to satisfy their own needs, including Harley or Lee Quinn. The ending is also bold. Yes, I said bold. There's that word again. Some of you may be laughing or rolling your eyes on the other side of the screen, and that's fine. That is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and people are 100% going to disagree with me and just say it was a bad, terrible, irredeemable ending, or things like it was stupid, it made the movie pointless, etc. But I disagree. I feel like they made the right choice. I kind of had the idea that it was going to go this way before I got to the theater, although I fully expected it to be Harley that did him in. It works for me because it further plays into the movie's themes. Arthur inspired the wrong people, or people took the wrong message, and in the end they used his own notorious phrase against him. Not to mention it also further reinforces that Arthur's actions have consequences. After hearing Gary's testimony, the Joker persona began to crack, and by the end, Arthur admits he made it all up. There's no split personality, he's not some inspiration for the unheard, unappreciated masses, he's just a man. A broken, unstable man looking for a fresh start, and he found it behind a face of makeup. And now that his actions are having consequences, he wished he could wash it all away and start over again. Plus, if you're paying attention, you can see Arthur's killer carving a smile into his own face in the background, possibly making him the real Joker. This is something that had been speculated since the original's release 5 years ago. Even Todd Phillips himself planted the seed in a behind-the-scenes featurette back in December of 2019 that Arthur might not be the real Joker, implying that maybe his actions could lead to someone much worse. Not to mention, he openly states that we get everything from Arthur's point of view, and that he may not necessarily be the most reliable narrator. So all of this had led to countless theories over the years that have now seemingly been confirmed, and since I started writing this video too, Phillips has done multiple other interviews saying that they never said this was the Joker or the origin story, so it seems like that was always kind of the route they were going to take anyway. Having watched, listened, and read numerous reviews and spoiler talks now too, there's a few things I wanted to address before wrapping up that I just don't fully agree with. For instance, Jeremy Johns, I know, not the best source, said in his spoiler talk video that the whole movie is a circle and that it makes it pointless, that Arthur ends up back where he started in Arkham. I have to fully disagree there. Does he do so physically? Yeah, because this isn't your traditional sci-fi, fantasy, action-adventure comic book movie. He's not the real Joker. He's not going out and making whimsical cracks and blowing things up. The movie's focus was never about Arthur escaping. It was about his journey mentally, coming to terms with his actions, coming to terms with his need to accept the world for the way it is, understanding people's view of him, and so on. It wasn't a true Joker and Harley movie as advertised, which again is the advertising's fault. Harley was a tool, a means to an end, but it's an Arthur Fleck movie. Arthur thought people would see him when he acted as Joker, this loud, carefree, brash personality he created. Look at the scene in the end with the riots. Arthur's initial reactions to seeing the people outside the courthouse or the other inmates chanting for him, the reporters wanting to talk to him, but in the end he realizes they only wanted Joker, not Arthur, and that's the whole point. Also, I do want to emphasize the fact that I am not one of those people who say, you just didn't get it, you didn't understand it, it went over your head, or whatever, blah blah blah. Maybe this is just my interpretation. Maybe you got something different. Art is subjective, after all. Todd Phillips had his own intentions, but like the old saying goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We all take our own things away from art, that's just how it works. So maybe you think I'm talking out my ass, and that's totally cool. I have my thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and you have yours. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. So no, I am not trying to insult anyone's intelligence here, I'm just giving my 2 cents as to what I believe the point and purpose of the movie was. The other 2 things I am seeing a lot of criticism for that isn't the musical numbers and stuff are Harley's origin story and the courtroom stuff. Harley's usual origin story is that she's a psychiatrist or psychologist or whatever assigned to the Joker in Arkham, who then becomes corrupted, falling madly in love with him, and in this one, it's still there, just a little more hidden. Her backstory is bullshit, she reveals. She is studying for her degree, and her dad is a doctor, and she checked herself into Arkham to meet Arthur, only it wasn't Arthur she wanted, it was Joker, after seeing him on the Murray Show. So that stuff is still in there with the addition that it's Harley manipulating him this time, so we're doing the old switcheroo. The courtroom stuff I had no problem with. It was a little generic, a little basic, but it served its purpose. It showed us the crowd outside, the people on the stand, gave us the best scenes in the movie. Arthur brought Joker back only to realize he couldn't put on this facade anymore. He wanted to move on and live his life with Harley, but like women in the real world who fantasize and idolize serial killers, Harley only wanted the persona. She wanted the Joker she saw on TV, not Arthur. The movie could have been a generic courtroom drama, and general audiences would have liked it more, I would guess. It could have ripped off stuff like Shutter Island, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, A Few Good Men, or whatever. But they did something way more extravagant. Also, that isn't a dig at women in general, it's a dig at real-world women that like went and married serial killers in prison and stuff like that, like Ted Bundy. That crazy shit. The last thing I do want to say before I close things out is that my hope with this video is that people think about this movie with a more open mind. You don't have to, of course, but that's my intention. You may not get the same things out of it I did. You may hate it even more, or maybe it's just not for you and you never want to think about it again. I'm not knocking Jeremy Jahns here either. I don't watch his stuff as much anymore, but he was one of my original inspirations to get started here. His spoiler talk video, in my mind at least, showed me that he watched the movie and took everything at face value. He didn't want to look beyond the surface. While that is totally and completely valid, and I'm not knocking anyone who views movies this way. Many people in my personal life just want to go to the movies and be entertained, and that's fine. I just feel like there's so much more here, at least for me. He wanted a Joker and Harley movie. He was pissed that Arthur wasn't the real Joker. He basically just wanted another generic comic book movie, which again, totally cool if you agree with him. But in my mind, this was never that. It was never meant to be that, and it was never going to be that. We have to accept it for what it is, and whether you have heard me out here or not is totally up to you. So to try and put a lid on this, I totally get why people hated this movie. And those feelings are absolutely valid. People didn't know it was a musical, or they expected a full-blown sequel rather than an epilogue to the first one like this is. They expected more chaos and mayhem, more Harley, a more traditional Joker like Nicholson or Ledger. But this movie takes all of those expectations and just throws them out the window for something totally raw and original. I have my issues. I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone you just didn't get it, because that's just not me. I have the utmost respect for individual opinions, but I can confidently say that I had a good time, and I am glad this movie exists. Even though I still stand by my initial statement at the beginning of this video, in that I never wanted a sequel to begin with. And though I still prefer the first one, by a landslide too, this has been the most I have thought about and analyzed a movie in a long, long time, and I think that's pretty cool. It's sparking a lot of conversations and evoking a lot of emotions, that's for damn sure, and so I respect and admire that. So that is all for today's video, folks. Be sure to let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my take on this particular topic. While you're at it, don't forget to let me know what you thought about Joker 2, aka Joker Folie. Did you hate it? Did you love it? Do you think it was garbage? Do you think it was a misunderstood masterpiece? Do you agree with my points? Disagree? Comment below, let me know. As a reminder, this right here is the revamped BAMTube Movies, and it is your one-stop for everything movies. Be it video essays like this one, ranking videos, top 10s versus videos, tier list videos, I have it all and so much more. Along with your daily nerdy news wrap-ups where I catch you up on all of the latest in movies, TV, and video games. So be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a thing. As always, folks, I thank you all so very much for watching. Stay happy, healthy, and safe out there. From myself and the rest of the BAMTube team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, and that's a wrap.